Welcome everybody. Thank you guys for being so patient. Anybody that's shadowcasting us, we give you guys a shout out. I don't know who may or may not be, but thank you for taking the time to watch us. I'm really pleased to introduce Bernadene Zennie, an RN, Masters of Education, mother, grandmother, nurse, counselor, Reiki master, and all-around occupier. She works with Now DC, one of the Occupy organizations down in DC, and the has been active in the movement since Zuccotti, from what we talked about. But like so many people, the movement goes further back than Zuccotti. So Bernadene's history, as she explains it to me, has been as an activist and occupier of sorts for a long, long time. So welcome to our little part of the world, and for taking time out, and thank you so much for being so patient with us, Bernadene. But I think we're good to go now. I'm feeling pretty good about that. You could say something to the people if you would like.
Say something to the people?
Yeah, you can say. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your geography and where you are now and why, and give out any contact info that you would like to give out, if you care to give any out, and we'll take it from there.
Contact info for me or for the Now DC?
Anybody?
Now DC?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, my name is Bernadene Zennie, and I am one of the lucky people that is associated with Zennie. This is how this interview came about. She's my daughter, and she does chat. She moderates chat and is involved in all things Occupy. And how I got involved in Occupy was when Occupy Wall Street got established and put out the call. I answered the call. And so I went to Occupy Wall Street, and when I was in Occupy Wall Street, people there and I were talking and thought that going to Washington would be a good idea, because Washington seems to be the place where the money is being used, the Wall Street money. Wall Street is perfectly appropriate, but so is DC. And so we developed this idea of Now DC, the National Occupation of Washington DC, Now DC. And it began March 30th and it's ending April 30th. It was like a month-long event, a one-time event, but who knows, the organization may continue. I'm not sure what will happen, but right now we're in the middle of it. We're doing actions. We just had a social forum whereby we had a lot of workshops, 75 workshops, where people were educating one another about what they're doing. The occupiers came from all over the country. They came from Oakland, they came from Seattle, they came from Denver, Michigan, Florida, New Hampshire, all over. And we all gathered together and decided to inform one another about what's happening. So it's been a really, really, really wonderful, fabulous meeting of the minds of people all over the country.
So as we go on, I'm going to want to get into some detail on that, because I think that's a fascinating organization. And we've chatted a little bit on the phone about some of the issues and challenges in it, and it's always helpful, I think, if we share those so we can all have an idea of how to problem solve and move forward in a progressive manner. And I want to go back to your early engagement in Occupy. Now, before you became an occupier, what did you do? What was your life like?
I was living with my daughter in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was actually trying to decide where I was going to go and what I was going to do with my life. I had ended my last nursing job, and that was April 15th. I've been a nurse for 38 years, and I've done lots of different things as a nurse, and I ended my last nursing job April 15th. And I pretty much decided to give my house to my daughter, who is Zennie. And I gave my house to her and all the equity in it, and she and her partner are paying the bills on it, and they're going to take over the house as soon as they're able to buy it. So I'm living there with them, and I decided I was going to just figure out what I would do. And I was going to travel all over the country in my car. And then the call for Occupy Wall Street came, and that's where I went.
Okay, so you heard the call out for people to come to Wall Street, and so instead of making your national tour, you beat it straight from Cincinnati over to New York. And what did you do upon arrival to New York? Tell us what like those first couple of days were.
Those first couple of days, the occupiers had been there probably just 2 weeks, maybe. I think they gathered on September 17th, and I arrived on September 29th, and 11:45, and Friday night, September 29th, and I pulled up to Zuccotti Park, which is also One Liberty Plaza. That was the name of it before they named it Zuccotti Park, and so the occupiers decided to take the name back to One Liberty Plaza. And I arrived there, and I had a bunch of stuff for the occupiers. I brought food, I brought supplies, I brought money, I brought everything that they called for, tents, everything I could find that I could pack in my car. And they emptied my car, and they were very grateful. And then I parked my car. Luckily, I got a parking spot in Manhattan, right near the park. And then I stayed. And what I did was I decided not to sleep in the park because I can sleep in my car. And I just slept in my car. So I slept in my car all over New York City, going back and forth in different places from September 29th to November 2nd.
Holy
so all
cow.
throughout, it was great. But this is what I need to tell you about Zuccotti Park, and everybody talks about that. Those first days, those first couple of weeks, it was incredible. The energy, the love, the feeling of we are really involved in something magical, something powerful, was amazing. And I would talk to the occupiers. I'm the kind of person that goes right to the heart of things. Like, okay, so here I come. I saw the live stream. A mother put out the call for the mothers to come because she said, they're harming our babies, mothers. You got to come down here. They were on the live stream. You know what the live stream was? It was an Apple computer under a tarp. And I got there. It was incredible. So, this woman got on. She said, you got to come, mothers. We've got to witness this. They're hurting our babies. They're hurting our children. And you got to come. So I said, I'm there. So that's what happened. And I talked to the original organizers. And the original organizers were some of the most smart, savvy, educated, dedicated, incredibly committed young people I've ever seen. And I would always ask, are you one of the original, let me talk to the original organizers. And they were all so open and so available and so accessible. But I got to know almost all of the original organizers, the ones that, were there at the park. They were doing media, they were doing outreach, and all of this stuff was being built, medical, food. When I got there, the food was already in place. They were having gourmet meals every day sent from places all over New York City. But I understand that's a New York tradition. Like when there was a strike during the days of the 30s, all the restaurants would send food to the strikers. None of the strikers starved. That's a New York tradition. That when there's some social justice thing going on, people respond.
Yep.
That's what I found out so the food was incredible. So I would talk to the original organizers just to ask them their ideas, what's going on. And we all had a meeting of the minds. We all knew that the banksters were stealing money from everybody. We knew that the Congress was bought and paid for. We all knew that the injustice, the income disparity, the laws are being made for the people that have money. The foreclosures, the whole foreclosure scam and crisis, the whole credit thing. I mean, it's the inequality and the criminality, the in your face, was just it's just enough to make you crazy. and we talked about all that. Now, the young people that I talk to, it's funny what I say, as you saw on the crosstalk interview. They're all 25. I mean, that's just my way of putting it. How old are you? 26, 24, 29, 25. They were all that age. And of course there were many people there that were not. There were many people like myself or other people who have been activists for a while who were there. But the original organizers mostly, by and large, were as I described. Some of them were doing doctoral theses in history or political science, but they knew how the system is rigged. And they have just been involved in trying to really work towards change in a way that's meaningful. So what happened is we would talk. The thing that was the most magical was that, hold on just a minute. The thing that was the most magical.
Somebody's in trouble.
Yeah.
You gave him the mom look. You know that? That's awesome.
I'm here. In there. Okay. All right. Sorry. Anyway, so I'm trying to pay attention to you, and things are happening. Anyway, so what happened was we would talk. Now, this is the most amazing thing about being at Zuccotti Park, that the energy there, you could feel it. The spiritual power and the understanding of the power of the connection of the people at that park, and that included the homeless people, that included all of the people that were there, was incredible. And Zuccotti Park is not very big. It's 2 square blocks one way and 1 square block and 1 block the other way. It's 2 blocks down and 1 block across. It's not that big, and there are buildings surrounding it. And I would be talking to them, and I'd say, the energy here, and they right away, when you talk about energy, they knew right away what I meant. There was no mystery. And I said, we're changing the consciousness of the people that live in these buildings around this park. And they go, we know. It was magical. So being there was like being in a fairy tale or something. And I think what happened was we really began to realize that something is really happening. That's something we waited for, something that the world needs, something we needed. I mean, it was truly an enchanted time. And that's the beginning, and that is not going to go away, and it hasn't gone away, and it will not go away.
Yep.
We're involved in more down-to-earth things, more practical matters. All of the Occupy groups are, but all the ones I've visited it's all the same. It's all the same understanding. They know that this is something magical that's happening.
And did you participate in any of the early GAs?
Oh, I did. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And those were really raucous and positive, and everybody was already, we knew we could change the world. And then you left out of there around November the 2nd and went to D.C. straight from New York.
Can I tell you something about the GA?
Oh, please
about
do.
The GA?
Yeah.
I was working with somebody. I hope that people can get this picture. I'm hoping I'm describing it as people. This is one of the original organizers drew a cartoon of the GA of Occupy Wall Street, and it was a huge snail that had GA written on it, and on top of the snail was a crazed-looking cat with a lasso, trying to lasso all these other cats around this snail, jumping up and down. And he said, this is what the GA is like. It's like a snail moving at a snail's pace, and all these crazed cats jumping up and down and scratching around. And that's exactly what it was like. It was wild, but it was very empowering because everybody felt heard.
Right.
And that's what's wonderful.
That's a great analogy. I love the image of that. I would love to find that cartoon somewhere.
I would too. I told you should send it to the Occupied Wall Street Journal. I said, you must send this into the Occupied. If we can't make fun of ourselves, what can we? We must make fun of ourselves. Anyway.
Exactly.
So your question.
So I was saying you left the city around November 2nd and headed to D.C.
Right.
And
right.
And did you have a destination in mind? Did you have people down there to hook up with, or you were just going to roll into town and connect with occupiers there and kind of see what happened?
What happened was, from one of the original organizers, or someone that I trusted at Occupy Wall Street, I got the name of a contact in D.C. I didn't know, anybody, and so they gave me the name of one of the original organizers of Occupy Washington, D.C. They gave me his name and phone number, and I contacted him, and he gave me directions, told me how to get there, and I drove from New York to D.C. and hooked up with the Occupy Washington, D.C. on Freedom Plaza. I didn't know that there was another camp. There's another camp that's Occupy D.C., and that's at McPherson Square. And, so there were two different Occupy groups. It doesn't,
Yeah.
what difference does it make?
Yeah,
Right.
well, I mean, everybody's occupying however and wherever they came. So you showed up in D.C. Was there more sleeping in the car, or did you kind of put down some roots there and get established? Because you're operating out of there now, right? You're in Fairfax right at the moment, but
Right now, I'm at the home of a person that supports the occupiers. There's people here, in Fairfax, Virginia. But when I went to Freedom Plaza, before they shut down the sleeping, there's no sleeping anywhere, I don't think, anywhere in America now with the Occupy groups. They've all been shut down as far as sleeping. But when I was there at Freedom Plaza, I slept in a tent, and we had GAs, and I was talking about the Now DC, because I did come down, I went down from Occupy Wall Street to talk about Now DC, National Occupation of Washington, D.C., a national call for occupiers from all over the country to come to D.C. That's the reason I went to D.C.
right.
And formed the organization, and we put the call out. We contacted all of the occupies. I personally contacted every single Occupy that had any kind of a Facebook or a email or a telephone contact on Occupy Together. I contacted every single one between November and January.
And I'm interested in how quickly and how many responded to the contacts.
Not many.
Not many.
But they were given the information.
Right.
Then after we started organizing much more diligently, we got more interest. The closer we came to the March 30th date, the more interest there was.
Right.
And two of the original organizers from Occupy Washington, D.C., Kevin Zeese, who has been an activist for a very long time, and Dr. Margaret Flowers, who has also been an activist for a very long time, put all of their political expertise and energy into the Now D.C. And we called for help from all over, and we got help. And then we organized it and did as much as we could. We organized huge events, and they took place. They're pretty much over now. Now what's happening now is Congress is back in session. Congress was out of session for spring break, but the Congress people are back. The bought and paid for representatives are back, and we're going to be yelling at them now.
Oh,
we're going to be yelling at them. Yeah, and we're going to be doing actions, and pretty much. Yeah, there'll be a lot of actions going on. Right now in DC, people are sleeping on the sidewalk as a protest, which you are allowed to sleep on the sidewalk in Washington DC, but they allowed that for the homeless.
Right.
They didn't realize that activists would do it in protest, so now they got their quandary.
Yep. So were you in Freedom until their eviction, or had you made your way out of there before they were evicted?
Yeah, I went home for Thanksgiving.
Okay.
I have a huge family in Cincinnati.
Right.
All my daughters, my sisters, everybody. So I went home for Thanksgiving. Then I stayed home for Christmas because it's like DC's like 8 to 10 hours away.
Right.
So I stayed home for Christmas and helped organize from my home in Cincinnati, continuing to contact occupies. I contacted, while I was home, I went to Occupy Bloomington, Occupy Indianapolis, Lexington, Louisville, Columbus, and I visited them.
So you were there in Cincinnati for a month or so, but you were reaching out as whatever was a reasonable distance and going
Right.
to the different places on the ground there. So this is an interesting thing because a lot of occupiers tend to be based in one area. You've seen a lot of the occupies. You've seen a
Right.
lot of the encampments, so clearly you understand that a lot of them, that pretty much all have been eradicated. What is your feeling on the value of the encampments and the loss of them, and how all that plays into our bigger picture?
The encampments were extremely important at the time. They were a visible announcement. If I had to really describe it, this is one way of putting it, is that the encampments all over the world were an announcement. We are here. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted the national occupation of D.C. I wanted us to go there, and I wanted to be in their face. It's like, okay, you need to put a face to the people on whom the policies that you make create havoc. You need to see a face. You need to have somebody get in your face and tell you what's happening. Because they tend to be, who do they see? All they see is lobbyists. How many lobbyists per congressperson? Like, I don't know, 20? It's crazy. I wish I had the figures. But there are so many lobbyists, and, that's the people they see.
Right.
They say that they represent the people, but they don't.
Yep.
They don't.
Well, I've been saying for a while, and part of why we started this channel is because I think we need to make everything personal. We need to have that face-to-face conversation with those that we oppose, but also with each other, because if we make it personal, we win. If we let it stay abstract, they win, because it's easy to ignore abstract entities. So you did the holidays and did a lot of organizing, and sounds like there wasn't much rest time. You were going here and there and everywhere, and then you returned back to DC to work on the Now DC events.
Let me tell you. Let me say something really quickly. When you're talking about the face-to-face, here's the thing that I think the encampments really did, is they created community. And for many years, as a counselor, I know that people in America are deserts for community. People need community, and we've created this way of being. Not everybody, but so many of us have created this way of being where we don't even know our neighbors. We don't even know the people in the community where we live. And whenever I encounter a community where people do know one another, I know that is very satisfying to them as human beings. But so many of us, so one of the things that the encampments did was create community. And that created the cohesion. And that was one of the big reasons that the Occupies camps, people wanted to keep them. They might not even have realized that this is what happened to them, but they got that beautiful feeling of community. So then when the encampments were gone, people kept the community together, and they wanted to meet other places. And that's what they're doing. The encampments might be gone, living in a tent is gone, but the communities created, many of them are staying together, and many of them are very active. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I like to stay on this topic a bit, because Uppity alluded to that the other night about, she used the analogy of the slime mold, how it's independent until it's stressed, and then it comes together as a single unit to address the problem. And we look at, even tonight as we speak, the people are on the street at Wall Street, all banded together, sitting on the steps of the federal building in the face of future harassment and everything. The sleepover people in DC are all a tight little community that is, as we understand, is getting larger every day. So it is, and all that is face to face, person to person. And that's where our strength lies, I think. How do you feel?
That is where the strength is. For years I've been saying, there's more of us than them. there's more of us than them. And once we realize the power that we have within ourselves and with each other, the power of the people. Let's see, the people united will never be defeated. That's one of our chants. And right after Zuccotti Park was saved the first time, that was the chant that they went into. The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. And that is the truth. There's more of us than them. And they want us to think that we're disparate. They want the people to fight with one another because it's divide and conquer. It's an old tactic. It's as old as the hills. But once we unify and once we're together, it's all over.
Right.
It is all over.
So much of our effort should be built around building unity and building strength and transcending our challenges. Just as a point of interest, do you think a platform like this helps contribute to that building of community effectively?
A platform like what
like
we're doing?
What we're doing, yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is when I saw the people at Zuccotti Park through the live stream, I was like, oh my God, this is what I've been waiting for. This is what I've been waiting for people to come together and then to connect with one another and to realize the power that we have together. I mean, I was crying. I would watch their interaction, and as I was packing, I was like addicted to the live stream, and I'd be getting tears in my eyes with happiness of seeing what was going on. And when you go to an Occupy community and you tell people you're an occupier, right away, people know. And, right away they know what you're about, what you want, even though there's so many things that people separately and individually have as their pet things that bothers them, whether it's the student loans, whether it's foreclosures, whether it's the banksters, whether it's, the Congress. Everybody knows that we know that the jig is up.
That's true. And if we can keep reminding of that, it gives us a great bit of leverage too.
Oh yeah.
So you came back, and I'm doing this chronologically, which is not normally how I do things, but it's an interesting story. You came back to D.C. You worked now D.C. You started your month of serious, events and actions in March, and it's about to wind up here in a couple of weeks. Will now DC remain as a viable, active organization, or will it, once this need is fulfilled in this month, does it transform into something else?
I'm not really sure. Here's how this goes. Nobody really, if we're going to really keep the spirit of Occupy, which is the horizontal structure, everybody's a leader, the original organizers of Occupy Wall Street, I think people are still finding their way, but interestingly, I was informed about how this could work by the 12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm what people might call a friend of Bill's. I'm not an Alcoholics Anonymous. I was in Overeaters Anonymous and Nicotine Anonymous, and I can say that I would never speak for Overeaters Anonymous, and I could never speak for Nicotine Anonymous, but I can speak for myself as a member of those groups. And I would also knew a lot of people that were in AA, and I knew the AA 12 traditions very well. And they are a fabulous guideline for a horizontal structure. And this is what many people don't know. AA is the largest or anarchist organization in the world. Anarchy means an without archy, rule, without rule. Nobody has boss privileges. Nobody has authority. You are a member if you say you are. And this is the beauty of AA, and this is how it stayed together all this time by the 12 traditions. Most people that are even in 12-step groups do not even understand the depth of the traditions. But since this is my 24-year anniversary, April 24th will be my 24-year anniversary, I have been very much involved in that. And I did a workshop at Now DC as to how the 12 traditions of AA could inform the Occupy movement. And what I did was we had a workshop and we adapted them for Occupy. And I posted them on our Now DC listserv. And I'll be happy to send them to anybody that wants to see them. Each Occupy group could adapt them for however they wanted, but they're a beautiful way of understanding horizontal structure.
That's excellent. Anyway. I would love for you to maybe get that to Zennie and we'll post it, in our channels or something like that. That would be really, really helpful. And whenever you're talking about something like this, it always brings up to my mind as a counselor and a healthcare professional and a workshopper who has conducted these workshops, how do we transcend our differences? All those different opinions and different interests. Fundamentally we have the same goals, but people are very opinionated and very strong. How do we work to bring those people together and reach a unified agreement on just a collective agreement to move forward?
The thing that I think is the most important, all of the 12 traditions of AA would inform how that could happen. But one of the very first one is that unity is the most important. This is the thing that needs to happen, is that people need to be dedicated to unity, and they also need to get the whole thing about personalities out of the way. Because personalities are just differences among people and their ways of being and how they see the world. And so what happens is in AA groups, you may be, or in any 12-step group, but you may be in a group and you go, oh, that person just really grates on me. But that's their personality. But if you're all dedicated to unity and you're all dedicated to staying together, and you can put that aside, you can put that personality glitch aside for the sake of unity, then beautiful things happen. And one of the ways that they do that, which is the reason that they wanted consensus, is because people will have to do that to reach consensus. Well, at Zuccotti Park, they decided that it would be 90% consensus, that if anybody did a block, they could overrule a block with 90% consensus, because anybody off the street could come to a GA and put in a block, which was crazy. So basically, they decided that if there was a block, that a 90% consensus could overrule it. So I think a 90% consensus is fair, but I have been in groups where it was 100% consensus, and that is very painful. It's a very painful process, because what you do is you keep going around, and everybody keeps saying, okay, this is what I want, and this is what I want. And if eventually, people they're not forced, or they're not, they may be influenced to change their vote to get to 100% consensus, and they may be willing to rethink something, because if people keep going around and saying, this is why I, this is why I, this is why I. If you want to reach 100% consensus, you can do that in small groups. Large groups, it's a little harder. But there were a lot of people at One Liberty Plaza who had worked with large groups that used consensus, or that used spokes councils, and they were not considered professionals, but they were considered people that knew things, and they shared their knowledge, and they might have been professional organizers or people that were with groups that used these more horizontally organized organizations that exist in the social justice arena, and they informed Occupy Wall Street to a wonderful influence, and they still are.
Yep. Well, that goes in my notes of how to work with people, is to transcend the personalities and keep the eye on the goal. So
yeah, exactly.
I like that. So I want to divert just a little bit, if you're comfortable with that. And I'm looking at my notes, and I should have, the Leah Bolger interested me. Am I saying that right? Leah Bolger?
Bolger.
Okay.
Bolger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hold on? Can you hold on just a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Just a second.
Somebody's in trouble.
Stop.
Man, Zenna's mom rocks.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. So Leah, good for you. See, I love this. It's like you're active.
Like real people.
Yeah. This is why live shows are so good, man. It's the real deal, you know. It's like this is real life happening. This is real Occupy. So Leah Bolger.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Why don't you talk about that a little bit? I wasn't familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the links were put up about it. It showed her activism, showed what she did.
Right. The feds were probably just waiting for us to jump on the Leah Bolger topic. So, you know, I always like to say hi to the feds. I know you're watching.
Oh, yeah. How do my NSA handler? How you doing? Twinkles, up twinkles.
Yeah.
It was very fast. We were doing up twinkles at the different social forum where people were not occupiers were coming and giving us information, and they would say something we liked. And up twinkles are wonderful because you don't applaud and you don't interrupt their thought, so they can keep talking and you can give them encouragement. The whole up twinkles and down twinkles and all this is wonderful. It's fabulous. I'm going to use it for the rest of my life.
That's awesome. So, did you want to tell us a little Leah Bolger story? Just just a little brief snippet.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. Leah Bolger is a 20-year veteran Navy commander. She's now the president of Veterans for Peace, which is a huge organization, and many of the Veterans for Peace were involved in Now DC and also are involved in Occupy. You can just go Veterans for Peace, you can Google them, and you'll find them. They're big. And I believe on their website is her activism. What happened was, you know, the mucky mucks on the deficit proposal committee were talking, and they were going to decide, you know, how we're going to decrease this deficit. And that's all that, before Occupy came around, that's all anybody was talking about was reduce the deficit. Well, that's what the corporatocracy wants. They want to keep getting all the goods and make everybody else pay. So they were talking about decreasing Medicare. They were talking about decreasing Medicaid. None of that anybody else talked about before. Under Obama, whatever. Anyway, so everybody thinks he's so. I know. So this was just, the outrage fatigue. Sometimes you just can't take anymore. So she was able to get into this. It's supposed to be a public hearing. She was able to get in for 50 seconds. This is what she said. Stop. I'll tell you how to reduce the deficit. Stop the wars. Tax the rich. Stop the wars. Tax the rich. Then you can reduce this deficit. Well, they didn't like that. These are Congress people. I mean, after all, these are the big boys. Well, they're supposed to be representing us. And she was not able to, So she just got up there and said what she said. She filmed it. Then she got arrested. Then she went on trial. Now, the beautiful thing is that she pleaded guilty. She pleaded guilty to the disorderly conduct. I believe that's what but she defended herself. She showed the video. This judge was incredibly sympathetic to her, and he said, basically what he said was, if 300 million people want to get up, he said, I understand why you did what you did. He actually said that he understood why she did what she did, that she didn't feel like she was being represented. And basically, some person's representation is that She's the reason that the deficit proposal meeting with all those mucky mucks failed. But she got up and told the truth.
The voice of
They
one
none
person speaking truth to power. So
what
let's see if we
came
go
up.
back up now. Okay, now live stream. Are we back on? Man, we were talking about something really great, and I don't know what they saw. Do you remember what we were talking about before we digressed? We were talking
Well,
about the thing you learned is okay. So chatters, catch me up because I don't know how much you guys heard.
chatter,
Our last little bit
chatter,
was on the biggest lesson she's learned of Occupy. Did you guys get to hear all that, or do we need to revisit it?
the chatters were asking questions, and I'm happy. I'm eager to answer questions from the chatters.
Okay. Yeah, she asked about Lisa the 50th. Okay, so let's revisit the last question I asked, which is, what is the biggest lesson you've learned about Occupy?
How wonderful horizontal structure is when people are dedicated to it and to unity, and to the understanding of there is no authority. Nobody has boss privileges. That's what it really means by a leaderless movement. Everyone is a leader. I'm going to send you the 12 traditions of Occupy or the 12 principles of Occupy as informed by the 12 traditions of AA. I'll send those to you. And people are, free to, mess with them as they want, change them around, whatever words they want to use. But the actual principles, the idea behind the principles are truly magical. They're truly nothing short of spiritual and wonderful.
And they're historical too. I mean, these are not new ideas. These are ideas that have been around for 1,000 years, and we just forget them and have to be reminded of them. And actually, if you want to email those to me, I'm going to make a printable PDF so people can print them out and wheat paste them, because I think it wouldn't hurt to put those all over the universe.
I agree. This is the thing that a very spiritual person said that I have been saying since she said it. America has taken rugged individualism to the level of the pathological.
That's great. That's great. I see. This is like I'm making notes for T-shirts, right? Because this is really good. So email that to me, and I'll put it up, and then we can all access it and wheat paste it. I'll probably use it as part of an action. What do you think our biggest challenge as a movement is?
I think the biggest challenge, I really do think the biggest challenge is understanding the idea and the power behind horizontal structure, and the idea of everyone is a leader, everyone is empowered, everyone has the ability to give and to serve everyone. Now, the thing about this is people think that their own self is going to be absorbed into the group. But what really happens is their gifts get disseminated into the group, but they become empowered as an individual. It's the best of both worlds. You feel empowered as an individual, yet you also feel the collective support and the wonder of being in a group of people that that really care about you and about one another and about something greater than themselves. And what we decided in our little 12-step or 12 tradition remaking was that universal consciousness is what we cared about. This was a very spiritual group, but you could say unity, solidarity. Some people say, other groups have said that what we care about is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. That could be it.
Right.
But we used universal consciousness because, like I said, we were a real airy-fairy spiritual group.
Well, and that's fine because it's a transferable outlook, right? The principles apply no matter what your bases are, the principles apply. So Indy's going to ask a question. Throw it up, girl, and I'll read it out. Need faster ether. It must be a long question. So, well,
yeah, silent.
Yeah, what is your next step in Occupy going to be?
Well, the next step is going to be with Bob. Actually,
oh, yeah?
we are.
And who is Bob?
Well, Bob Ballard is he's my Occupy romance. And that's what we say. We have an Occupy romance because we met as friends on Freedom Plaza in Washington, D.C. And then we became friends, and I came out to stay in Fairfax, Virginia, where he's staying with the person that supports occupiers. When I came back from Christmas break, and I attended, we had a couple of face-to-face organizing meetings, Philadelphia, New York, different places, and then I came back to D.C. to work on Now D.C. Bob was here at this home of the person that is supporting occupiers. And actually, on the way out here, when I was talking about how beautiful it is, Bob said, yeah, this is 1% country now. And it's very nice out here, but the person that lives here loves the whole Occupy movement and supports occupiers. So there's several of us staying here, visiting, and that's how Bob and I met. He's been staying here, and then I met him here, and then we just started talking about things, and well, here we are.
There you are. You guys got an Occu-commune going there. I can tell. I can feel it from here, which is awesome because those are springing up now. You know, we have friends in New Jersey that this lady has just said, oh, well, I'm going to help this person, and now she has a whole house full. You know, we're going to interview them next week, I think. Mm-hmm. So I want to catch Indy's question here. She's interested on hearing you describe the struggles of teaching the horizontal principles with such a diverse group because so many cultures and varying education levels and class struggles are within that group. So she's interested in hearing about some of the challenges and ways you address that.
Yeah. What I would say is that when people are coming together in this kind of a movement, they're almost halfway there, if not almost all the way there. In other words, it's almost intuitive to people to understand how important unity is and solidarity, and that is the thing that if people can get the idea of how important unity is, because it's a divide and conquer. It's a divide and conquer strategy. That's what they've done. They've divided and conquered, and so the answer to the divide and conquer strategy is unity. So once people begin understanding the importance of unity and also understanding the importance of discounting personalities, then you can get people.
So that was good. We got to revisit that. I want to rewind on that.
Well, isn't it interesting that it cut off just at the time when I was talking how important unity is?
I'm telling you, the feds don't like that stuff.
I wish I knew my NSA handler's name because I could convince him or her that we're working for him or her too.
Yeah.
If I knew their name, I know if I could face to face with them, I'd get them on our side.
Okay, so let's go back to, if you can recall, you were talking about the unity and how powerful that is.
Yeah. Because the strategy of the power elites, the people that use the excesses of power, the kleptocrats, the corporatocracy, the oligarchy, whatever word you want to use, it's a divide and conquer strategy. And so unity is the answer to that divide and conquer strategy.
And do you find that you have success, like if, let's say you have two characters that are just, oil and water, right? And you as a facilitator, are you able to successfully help them see that and get the buy-in so that they can move beyond the oil and water?
Usually the best way to do that is by example.
Uh-huh.
Leaders lead by example, and when a leader puts their own personal agenda aside, or engages a personality, for the sake of unity, and other people see that. See, the thing about groups is some people have more influence than others, and that's okay. That's as it should be. Some people, if you've ever been in a group of, we'll say 10 people, and there's always one person that wants to talk more. There's always a person that is caring about the emotional climate of the group. There's always someone that's caring about where's the group going? Are we really talking about where we need to go? Then there's some people that remain silent until they're asked to speak or until they get a turn to speak, and then they say the exact right and perfect thing that everybody was thinking, but they hardly ever talk. And Bob is one of those kind. I'm the kind, when I'm in a group, I'm always like, where are we going? Are we getting there? Are we talking about where we need to go? And then sometimes I'll look at the emotional climate of the group. Like sometimes, like somebody's really ticked off or whatever, and then I'll kind of say something that'll maybe make it better. But so this is group dynamics that people know about. But the most people that work with groups, as I have done, group therapy, and I've been in a million groups. You can't be an activist and not have been in a million groups. Anyway, so this is how they work. But the most important thing is to not have a leader. And the most important thing is that everybody feels empowered, that everybody gets a chance to share their gifts, and that everybody feels that unity and the goal of the group is more important than any personalities that they like or don't like, or any personal agenda, one idea agenda, that everybody gets to contribute in the group, and everybody creates what the group has. And there are many groups that work that way but if we could get that on a national scale, or if we could get all the occupies together to do that, the power of this movement would be unbelievable. It would be truly unbelievable.
That's true. So this is something I never do in the course of an interview, but I think you should do an online workshop. We should host an online workshop on that topic. Because I feel like it's desperately needed. I mean, you're saying things and I'm getting cold chills, and I'm going, oh, you're describing the who's who in the groups, and I'm going, oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
I think it would be fantastic. So I want to talk about that more offline. So let's take a temperature check. We'll do a temperature check from the chatters. Okay, temperature check the chatters. We're doing a poll. This is like when Keith does a poll. Do you think a online workshop on the topic we just discussed would be a valuable investment of time and energy? So let's see. Yes. Everybody's going yes. Coalesce. Okay. So it's a good idea. We'll talk about it. Okay. So I digress. Yeah,
I'd be happy. Well, as a counselor,
yeah.
I've had training in group therapy, which is not necessarily, we're not going to therapize everybody, but really when you're talking about helping people get together and come together in a way, it is that. In a way, it's teaching people how to work together. And almost all problems are communication or problems among human beings.
Yeah.
It's how human beings treat one another that creates almost all the problems in the world.
I already have the name for it. We're going to call it a Unity Workshop.
Okay.
Is that
Sounds
good?
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
We'll talk about that.
Bob would really know about that too, because he's actually got a huge amount of experience and expertise in that as well.
Yeah.
Anyway. He's waiting. He's not waiting. He's sitting here.
Yeah, he's waiting patiently for our little segue. So now will be our good segue. We can go back to what is your next step in Occupy? And you already kind of spoke a little bit about Bob. So let's amplify that and then see if we can get Bob on the scene here.
Okay. Okay, well, I'll introduce him because he doesn't like to introduce himself because he's actually very modest, and I'm going to embarrass him by telling everybody how modest he is. He really doesn't talk about himself much, so I'll talk about him. He writes music, and that's his real love is music, is writing music and playing music, and he left. About 7 years ago, he left what would be called a 2% lifestyle. He wasn't a member of the 1%. It would be called the 2%. And he left that lifestyle and went to New York, went to California. And he went there to really just learn to be himself and to be happy. And we all know stories of people that have had everything, the money, the cars, the house, all of that, and committed suicide or weren't happy or had a heart attack at 56 or whatever they do. Whatever they do that is a manifestation of their unhappiness. And we know people that have left that too, that have become happy. In fact, so that's that. Well, he did that, and then he also has done a project called the Hearts of Fire Project. And it's a project whereby he gathers together groups of people that are homeless or that are without, all of the bonds that people have, whatever you want to call them, homeless people or street people or whatever, and does an empowerment program for them. In other words, no one ever saw them before as being, many of them, a person never saw them before as being talented or worthwhile or artistic or creative. And he has a way of bringing them together and helping them express their creativity. So that's called the Hearts of Fire Project. Anyway, so he got the call for Occupy Wall Street too, and we were actually there at the same time, but we had not met. We were at One Liberty Plaza at the same time. And then he went back to D.C. He went to D.C., then he went to Occupy Wall Street, then he went back to D.C. And then we met. And so we've talked about our journey a lot, and we've had a similar journey in life. So then we got together and we fell in love, and he's just a really incredible man and human being. And the next step is that we're going to go visit Occupies all over, and we're going to do fun things. And we're going to talk to occupiers, and we're going to let them know they're not alone. We're going to let them know that, and I think they know this, most of the occupiers that are on any of the live streams, they know that things are still happening. This whole business that Occupy has gone away, that's just whistling in the dark. The powers that be, they know it's all over but the shout. Well, it's all over but the indictments and the public shame.
I like that. That's another great T-shirt. It's all over but the indictments. We're going to make silk screens and put them on the road with you.
But see, what used to be happened, people had a moral code because the public shaming was something that was such a harsh punishment. But there's no public shame anymore. Anybody that wants to understand this should read Chris Hedges. He writes for Truthdig. He's great. He really does make the moral argument. And this is the thing that people haven't made about all this crazy stuff that's happened ever since Reagan. Reagan appealed to the darkest, deepest fears and the lowest common denominator of human beings. That's who Ronald Reagan appealed to. And, I'm saying I'm a truth teller. I just say it as I see. And I saw that at the time that happened. And ever since then, and what Chris Hedges said was, ever since Ronald Reagan, the progressive movement was on a death march to where we are today. The ideas of progressivism, the ideas of engendering human progress, and not the ideas of, that the individual is what counts and money is what counts and all this other stuff that doesn't mean anything as far as people's real happiness. So anyway, I'll go ahead and if you want me to, Bob and I are going to go on the road, and we're going to do the Bob and Bernadene show.
That's going to be awesome.
I'll tell you what, we have no modesty when it comes to that. Individually, we try, but together we're just out of control. Anyway.
That's fantastic. I actually, so I'm making a list of stuff we're going to talk about, the workshop, but I also want to talk to you guys about setting you up to do live streams so we can broadcast some of your stuff while you're on the road, because that would be fun.
Bob's going like this.
Yeah?
Bob's going.
Okay. I'll work with him on it. It's easier than you might imagine. Clearly, based on your experience here, you don't need any skill, right? So bring Bob on. Bring Bob on. Everybody want to see Bob?
Yeah.
Bob,
Yeah.
Bob,
Okay.
Bob,
Yeah,
Bob,
he's coming.
Bob.
He's coming.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
This is my soulmate, Bob Ballard. Here, you can sit down.
Okay, let me sit down.
Sit down.
And who's this I'm with here?
My name's Mark. I'm one of the producers of the OPN network, the Other Possibilities Network, and I work with Zennie, who is Tori, who is Bernadene's daughter, and a few other people, and we do these live shows and live interviews, and we're really grateful to have you guys both here with us tonight. And I kind of, last week when Bernadene and I talked, said, oh, we got to get Bob on because we need like a little teaser for the Hearts of Fire tour. That's it. I can see the T-shirt, the Hearts of Fire. It's all over but the indictments. It's be great. So you want to tell us a little bit about that project, the Hearts of Fire project details, if you don't? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the Hearts of Fire project began about 6 years ago, and it's based on an experience I had. I write music, as Bernadene told you, and one of the songs I wrote was about my experience of encountering homeless people in Boston, where I used to live. That's why I talk so weird. I have this. I leave certain letters out of my words, and I add other ones in, and it's interesting. But anyway, I wrote a song about how I felt about the homeless people, and I moved to California, and I was playing that song, and somebody heard me doing it, and they said, well, why don't you go to Boston and make a music video? So we went to Boston, and we did a music video with the homeless people. And we just filmed all the lyrics, and I just had an amazing experience with these people, and I had this vision of who they were because they just had so much love and connection and compassion for each other that I said, wow, what would it be like if other people had that? What would it be like if we related to each other the way these people do? And then I saw some amazing artwork that they did under a bridge, and we just hung out with them for 3 days doing this video, and I just was, wow. I felt like I could see a spirit in these people that I didn't see in other people. So I thought, what would it be like if other people could see them the way I'm seeing them right now? So we created this Hearts of Fire project from that, and it's a nonprofit organization, and what we do is we empower homeless people. I've gone 20,000 miles around the country in this RV that we've been talking about that was donated to us to the project, and we visit shelters, and we do art and music empowerment projects with the homeless people at the shelters. So that's what I've been doing.
Excellent. What a wonderful project. And are you guys, documenting? I mean, I know you're not live streaming or anything, but
To the mountains, that'd be terrible.
all right.
Are you out near Boone? Is that where you are?
Yeah, we're between Boone and Asheville. So we're north of Asheville, between Asheville and Boone. So,
Okay.
yeah. So we're back, Chatters. We're back. Yeah. Okay. We're back. So when we dropped off,
This is some of the most fun I've had in a long time.
oh really? Well, that's good because we want it to be fun for you. And
Didn't I look like I was having fun on the crosstalk interview?
oh yeah. Well, I'm sorry we're not as advanced as Crosstalk, but this is what we got. But we can do this from anywhere. So. Yeah, it's bad weather here, Rev, and so I'm having connection issues, and they're having a little bit of a bumpy connection issue. So we're muddling through. It's good. And Bob was just telling us that they have a lot of documentation on the website, and Zennie can pop up the website again. And they're going on. Kind of what's your route going to be on this tour? Are you on the beginning, and you're just going to go until you just don't go anymore, or do you have a plan, or how's that work?
I'm going to go to Cincinnati to kind of refuel and regroup before we go out anywhere else. I think, isn't that the idea?
Yeah. Well, I guess I can give a plug for the Glasser Institute. That's one of my real big loves is Bill Glasser, who's written a book called Choice Theory. I would recommend, and also he's written a book called Warning: Psychiatry Can Be Hazardous to Your Mental Health. And he's a psychiatrist. I've been practicing reality therapy. I'm also certified as a reality therapist. The Glasser International Conference is in LA, June 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, and I'm going there regardless whether Bob is going to have other work or not, whether he has gigs or whether he has some of the other work he does, which is accounting work and auditing, consulting. So, but we're going to stop in Cincinnati and visit, and then we're going to make our way out to California in the RV. And anyway,
That's outstanding.
Bob lives in Ojai, which is north of LA. And I'm going to be in LA the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th of June regardless, because that's the Glasser International Conference and I'm going to go there.
Right. Well, we wish you guys safe travels, and it's wonderful to get to meet you, Bob. I did a little bit of reading about the project, and I'm a